Hey, coworkers.
Welcome to Coworkers in Crime, the podcast where office chatter meets crime discussion.
I'm Rachel.
And I'm Crystal.
Yes, we really do work together.
And yes, we're totally obsessed with true crime.
From water cooler whispers to cold case deep dives,
we're here to bring you stories that keep us chatting way past our coffee breaks.
So grab your coffee,
lock your desk drawer, and let's get into this week's case.
Crystal, today we're talking about the murder of Faith Hedgepeth, who was a 19-year-old UNC Chapel Hill student who was found killed in her apartment in September 2012.
Yeah, when you mentioned this one to me, I was like, how have I not heard of this? Because I went to school in North Carolina, and I don't remember even hearing about this. But this case definitely sits with you because it's years and years before anyone put a name on it, and there's now charges.
Yeah, and then the case cracks wide open years later, and mostly because of DNA. And just the advancements with DNA just is mind-boggling from 30 years ago when the best they could do really was this is type A blood found at the scene. And now we've got to the point where you can tell all sorts of things about a person from their DNA that's left at a scene. And if I was a criminal, I'd be worried. I would be shaking in my boots if I had committed a crime.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this, I think, in like our intro or so, somewhere along the way. We've talked about how it's accelerated of the genealogy door that's open now has cleaned up some loose ends. I mean, I would be very interested to see, since the opening of the door of genealogy, how many cold cases have closed, because they're coming back and just like closing loops. Before we jump in, I want to make sure that we separate what's confirmed and what's being argued in court filings, because motions aren't verdicts. You know, we've talked about not like presumption of innocence and how important that is, and I want to make sure we're saying allegedly and all those fun podcasty words. So I tried to do that when creating some case notes here. This is confirmed. This is what is being argued.
And we're not naming any uncharged people or suspects or calling them suspects if we can't confirm it in news reports or things that the police department has released. We're not naming names.
Yes.
And we've said that all along that we didn't want to do that. So.
I don't condone doxing. It's not nice.
Yes.
Very mean. So when you hear years later and DNA, do you feel relief or do you worry about what kind of challenges are going to happen in court?
I think I fall more into the relief category. And here's why. Because you hear so many times that there was DNA in a case and it gets to be, 15, 20 years old. And now there's advancements. And then they go to test the DNA and it's missing. So I think when there is cases where it's there and they can test it and get something from it still. So I think I feel a little bit of relief. But I guess maybe there are challenges that would be faced in court.
Yeah, I haven't seen yet where DNA is argued and it works out for them, but there's transfer DNA, and I've seen some court filings where they really underline, oh, this is just touch DNA. It wasn't enough for this. So yeah, I think I feel relief. Like, oh, good, we're going to finally get some justice is the first initial gut reaction. So let's learn about her. What do we know about Faith?
Faith Danielle Hedgepeth was 19. She was a student at UNC Chapel Hill. And before anything else, we want to keep this centered on her as a person, not just a case file.
Yeah, the case really gripped people because it's close to home. And for a lot of people, the timeline is so tight. And it seems there's a lot of things in there that seem so obvious, but it took years to get answers in areas that you would think would not have been that difficult.
What do we want listeners to remember about Faith?
So I know she wanted to be the first person from her family to graduate from college. She was Native American. Her parents, especially her father, was greatly impacted by her passing.
She was starting her life. You think about sending your kids off. You can protect them while they're at home. And then they start going to school, and it's, are they being bullied? Are they making friends? Like all these things that you send kids out into the world, and you send them off to college, a safe place, or what's supposed to be a safe place.
Mhm.
And I just can't imagine getting that phone call.
Yeah, for those that listen to a lot of different cases and crimes, this one has a lot of parallels to Idaho. Some things that the roommates said, which really drew my attention, and the parents of this young girl. It reminds me so much of the Idaho case. And maybe it's because I have a daughter in college that's away from home and far away. And I think about, you send them off, and like you said, it's a safe place. You think, okay, like it's they're in school, and and they're in groups, and they're always hanging out, and you just think they're going to be okay. And then this is just devastating. It's absolutely sad that her life hadn't even started yet, and she was so bright. I mean, doesn't sit well.
No. Let's talk about what's been widely reported. Faith and her roommates spent time out that night, as college kids do, going to a nightclub. And in the early morning hours, they returned to their apartment.
Yeah, and this matters because it narrows down the timeline of window of opportunity. The question becomes, who had access, who could enter without drawing attention, and what happened in that short span of time.
And then the roommate leaves again.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
Faith is in her room sleeping, I would assume sleeping. And later on, she's found dead in the apartment. And
right.
police determined it's a homicide.
The roommate, I guess, left like at 2 something or so. They went to sleep, and then at 4 the roommate woke up and left again, and then comes right back. Um, or it comes back in a couple of hours, and when she walks in, that's where she finds Faith. And the house, obviously, or apartment, in just complete disarray. The door was unlocked, so they could have just come in while Faith was sleeping. Um, there wasn't any signs of forced entry or anything. I can tell you, like, especially as a young student, I had neighbors that I would hang out with when I was in college. They were 2 houses over. And so instead of carrying my keys and all my stuff with me over to their house, I'm 1 door over. I would just leave my door unlocked, walked over there. So I could imagine, I don't know where she went, but I think she did say where she went. Someone picked her up. However, this was a bad neighborhood, in an off-campus apartment. It wasn't a great neighborhood.
With such a short timeline, do you feel this was someone known or just an opportunity?
Feel it was known. Um, I felt like it was anyway. The evidence they found years later, or that came to light, is really what made me think. Like, as the more evidence that came out, the more I was like, this person may be close. How about you? Did you feel the same way? Or did you feel it might be someone took an opportunity, saw a door unlocked?
Like back and forth, kind of. Because, like, was it just somebody walking by and checking doorknobs? I've worked in a hotel, and that's one thing that we were kind of like trained. When you work the front desk, you walk the halls. And if you see a door that's, the latch is using it to hold it open, you open the door a little bit, throw that security latch in, and make sure that door is secured. If you see it open a little, like, you just make sure the doors are closed. So I'm wondering if someone just walked by and
Check doors.
happened to test the doorknob, and, oh, this one opened. And yes, so that's kind of where my mind went when I was, learning about this case and digging into it a little bit, was just, those memories from having worked, like I said, in a hotel and in hospitality. Was this person at the club they were at and followed
Hmm.
them home? Or when, I mean, you hear those stories all the time when
Hmm.
you're out and about, and you
More
and
of an
I were
opportunity.
were college kids at one point. You think you have the whole, like, you don't worry about all
I
these things. I
I think
mean,
of the dumb things I did in college that was so dumb. I was so trusting, and I think about my daughter driving to college. I'm like, don't pull over for anybody, don't get in. And but I didn't do those same things. It's just crazy how trusting we were.
I'm still trusting. Like, I think I am.
I want to be.
And I'm probably overly trusting because I'm like, I trust everyone until they give me a reason not to trust them. And they're
Yeah.
a good person until they give me a reason that they're not a good person.
Mhm.
I hope people still have that same view, like that the world is not this horrible, horrible place. That there's still good people.
Used to stop and just give money to homeless people. My mom was like, "That's so dangerous." I'm like, "It doesn't feel dangerous to me." And she's like, "It is dangerous though." And then she's right, it could be. But I don't know. So let's talk about people.
So sadly, most all the public reporting that we can find consistently described that Faith was bludgeoned with an empty liquor bottle.
And there's the piece of evidence that has been talked about for years, and that's the message left on the bag uh, near the scene. It's not extremely vulgar or anything, but basically saying you're jealous or something about jealousy. And it's just, it to me, it felt like this isn't a new encounter, but it was saying I'm not stupid and something about jealousy. So those are the two things. If I had to just pick what stood out to me in this message, it was those two things. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, and I haven't been able to find where that paper bag was found.
I think
Was it in the apartment
it
or
was
was it
in
outside the apartment? Because if it's outside the apartment, I'm thinking,
it was
is it
inside,
just
and it wasn't. It looked like it was written before they came in because it didn't have any splatter on it or anything. It was clean. And in fact, some of the people who've done research on the bag, they were like, this bag is very clean. And someone wrote it in their non-dominant hand. So it would kind of throw you off to not say necessarily a child wrote it, but that it looked just like this is unclear
different writing?
handwriting because it was written with the wrong hand. And I think it was in the same room, if I remember right. It was on like the bed.
And then there's kind of the key piece of information, key piece of evidence, and that's male DNA. And they had this early in the investigation. And I feel like DNA is kind of almost like the central thread through this, once cold case, now we're headed to trial.
Right.
And we had it sitting there.
Yeah. And, I think when we start talking, I think we're going to go further. I mean, we are going to go further into DNA, but like I said, when I see DNA, I'm like, oh, good. There is like earlier we just said, how do I get the sentence out? Earlier we said, does the DNA make you feel okay, good, and it's a sign of relief? To me, it always is because it's like, oh, good, there's a better chance. Like to me, we're already at a 50% chance that this is not going to stay cold for long when I see that there's DNA. It's going to take a long time. Like the yogurt shop took so long. Once they finally aligned the DNA with someone, they had already passed. So that's the like, okay, we're not going to get justice, but we at least know who did it. Like, and is there justice in that? Totally other story. But to me, anytime there's DNA, I'm like, we're in a good place. Like we're we're definitely in a better place because it's there.
It's almost like a fingerprint because it's
Mhm.
unique to you. Like I suppose identical twins
Mhm.
have exactly the same DNA,
Right. That's an
but
unfortunate. That's where it's not going to work out. But or at least, well, we're down to two. I mean, we at least are closer.
but DNA is just like a fingerprint. I mean, it's as good as a fingerprint, but it's only good evidence and lead you to a suspect if that person's already committed a crime and in
Right.
code.
And in CODIS, right? In CODIS is the only way for a long time that they were able to find people. So even though it's not an automatic person, the person isn't in CODIS and there's not a match, it just sits there. And that's obviously why this case stalled for years. But there is now new ways, as we talked about in our intro of this one, that this one's starting to finally have a case now. So
And how frustrating for the investigators to have this DNA, to have this fingerprint, something unique to the suspect, and you can't match a name with it. I can't, like that just has to be so frustrating. You pull
yeah.
your hair out and be like, why? Why can't I find this person?
It's like being a millionaire and money doesn't matter anymore. It's like I have all this money, but money is worthless. Like it so you have this golden key and you can't do anything with it. That's just
Right.
awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. In 2016, police publicly shared a DNA based composite, which is very interesting, that they produced through a company known for their predictive DNA work. So basically, they're using DNA to predict traits that the owner of that DNA would possess.
This just baffles me that they can do that
Yeah. Yeah.
with
Uh,
like, you can tell someone's ancestry and take out they're definitely they might have it's almost like, the behavioral unit at the FBI. Like, they
mhm.
look at a scene and go, "The person, this, and this." It almost reminds me of that. Like,
Yeah,
the
I can
DNA is
see that.
telling you this, and this about a person, and then you put it together.
Well, and they released that too. Like, be leery of people that have dark hair, dark eyes, this ethnic background. I think they said either I don't remember, Native American. I can't remember what they said, but they told people at that time be on the lookout or be cautious of, which was crazy because I felt like, oh, it's odd they released that. But for 2016, that's, I mean, they were doing this. They were putting, I don't remember that. I don't ever remember hearing about this prior to this case.
Me either. So this DNA testing or predictive traits is estimating things like ancestry and physical traits, and then generating a composite image of what this unknown person might look like.
Right. And phenotyping is not identification. It's a tool to generate leads, to put out their important traits. Can estimate with varying accuracy ancestry, biogeographic background, like broad regions, eye color, hair color, skin pigmentation. Eye color is usually very strong, but hair color is kind of moderate. Uh, the Sometimes they can say freckling or age range or other trait probabilities, but it's not like CODIS. It's not a match. It's not a photo of a person. It's not proof someone committed a crime. Police just use it as a DNA snapshot. Um, to generate tips, it's probabilistic. There you go. It's probabilistic, not definitive. Prob probabilistic. Pro Probabilistic.
Probably, maybe we should use a different word.
Okay. It's not
Probably.
definitive. It's
All right, let me stop
it's
laughing at me.
probs. It's probs, not definite. Uh, so face shape predictions are much less reliable than a thing like an eye color. It can unintentionally cause bias, which is what I was saying earlier. You put out, be on the lookout for this person, and immediately I start worrying about how they're going to start treating people because some people just fear takes over and they're just like, oh, you said it was someone, you know, with blank ethnicity, so I'm just going to accuse every person I see that's standing by themselves. So I could see that being problematic. That's such a better
Okay,
word than probabilistic.
what do you think? Do you think the phenotyping helps, or do you think it sends investigations down the wrong path? Because, like you were saying, does it lead to bias? Does it lead to, like, profiling, basically?
Yeah, I think it depends on how they use it. I don't know that I love them putting out there things that are moderate prediction. Like if you don't know the face shape, don't put a face shape out there. I don't really think I like that they put a photo out with it, but if they say we do know that it's a male, we do know an eye color, which we're going to put in context anyway. Like, the things that it can tell, I don't know that it necessarily does anything for the public. I think it does more for them. So, yeah, I don't know what I feel about the public outspeak of it, but I will say that I think it's great and I think it does help as long as it's not being used the wrong way.
So that's when the major shift comes in. Reporting describes authorities using that DNA ancestry technology, essentially using advanced methods that can connect unknown DNA to distant relatives.
And this is the part that can change everything. Instead of who is the exact person, it's who is the person related to. And that is I we're I think this is why I like true crime because there's so many ways to pull in things that I find so interesting. I went down a, years long rabbit hole of digging through my ancestry and finding my grandparents' parents and their grandparents and their parents and grandparents. And I think that the fact that that is starting to now pull in how they're solving crime, this is just so neat to me that they're saying, okay, we do know this is the family tree. Now we work backwards. I think people have negative feelings towards this, and I'm open to. I want to hear more about people who are not excited about this. I want to hear why. I know the big overarching reasons they say they don't like it, but I would give my DNA willingly if I knew it would help solve a crime of even though
Right.
I'm of someone in my family, I would do it in a heartbeat. I wouldn't hesitate. But I could see where people would not think that's very fair.
And according to reporting on the court documents, investigators use DNA tied to key items, that takeout bag, the rape kit evidence, a wine bottle. And that helped them like point towards a family tree or, like build that family tree maybe.
Yeah, where do you land on genetic genealogy? Is it the best tool we have in violent crime or a privacy slippery slope? Which I guess that's a much better way of asking what I was trying to say earlier, but do you think it's where you lean there?
I mean, I've been building my family tree, and I guess when you've built it, you're like putting the pieces together and then you think, "Oh, well what if our DNA shows up somewhere?" And now I've already built this family tree and it's leading right to a person. I don't know. It's like sometimes I think it's fascinating, and like I said at the beginning, if I had committed a crime and, it was years ago and I thought I got away with it, I'd be shaking in my boots, being
Mhm.
like, did I leave anything at the scene? I might just go confess and be like, hey, listen, I know this case is cold, but you found me,
Well,
because
yeah, and
it's,
like you think about your kids may go turn their DNA in to see, some fun thing they're doing, and then it ends up drawing back to. I mean, I don't know. Like they're gonna, it's, and then we're doing all the work. Like, hey, you want to know who's doing it? Here's the great grandfather of. Like, yeah, we're building it for them.
it's kind
I
of
think it
fascinating
falls
how
in
they
the
can
middle of
do it.
both of these. I see the privacy slippery slope, but I think we have the best tool in violent crime that we've had. I mean, I can't imagine a
But
better
if you sign something when you send in your DNA that you are agreeing to have this be publicly available,
Yeah, that's
then
kind of
then it's not privacy anymore. You're like, here's my
yeah.
DNA.
Well, and that's my understanding is, that was a huge back and forth in the Coburger case, and it's becoming a bigger in every case. It's
I
hey,
wonder if we'll see legislation come out.
I think we will. I do, and I love that we've already kind of set a stage for us to keep going down that way too with the Miranda right episode we have because I do see amendments being made that you can't use DNA in certain ways. The fruit of the poisonous tree arguments and things that well, you wouldn't have had that if you didn't have this. And the FBI wasn't supposed to do a genealogy that way because they got it from someone who wasn't supposed to release it. But it still says you did this. So we're going to let them go on a technicality because that was the only proof we had because it came from a bad place. I mean, you know, it's a slippery slope because it is a privacy slippery slope. However, it's solving violent crime, and why
And
would
it's getting violent criminals off the street.
absolutely. Yeah.
So once a potential suspect emerge, just like in other cases when they use this genealogy, they need to do a direct DNA match. And that's usually investigators are going to obtain a sample directly from their suspect, whether it's from a warrant or from an item that was discarded by the suspect that, the police can gather, whether it's they see them throw we've seen it on on various shows where someone discards a cup, a
Mhm.
soda can, and the police are
Yep.
following them and, immediately put that in a bag to test it. In this particular case, the police have not come out to say which way they obtained his DNA,
I'm sure that'll
obtained
be
the suspect's DNA.
yeah. I'm sure we'll find that out in court for sure of how they obtained that. And then, reporting also says that the palm print matches from the wine bottle. So just another additional corroboration. Like you were saying earlier, DNA is as good as a fingerprint, and now we have both.
So this is where it went from we have this have the DNA, we have, you know, a profile, to we have a person.
Yeah. Does DNA feel like a lock to you, or does it like make you chain of does it make you ask chain of custody questions first?
How it was collected, how it's stored, how it's tested. I mean, all these things come into play, how it's documented. And
Yep.
I just think there's so much, you know, you feel like it's a lock. You feel like juries are like, I feel like if I was on a jury, I'd be like, well, is there DNA?
Yeah. That's actually like that's the thing. They're
Is there,
saying that people want juries for a while have wanted the smoking gun, or they'll say, well, we just will let them go. Even if there's so much circumstantial evidence, they typically aren't going to convict unless there's that smoking gun of DNA. They want the CSI episode, but it's not always that simple. And we don't
right.
always have it. So when we have it, people see it as a lock. It's done. We got it. We got DNA.
Well, like I said, you know, DNA feels like a fingerprint. So it's unique to you. You know, it's unique to me. No one else has my DNA. Yes,
Mhm.
families share similar DNA, but not my exact DNA.
Yeah.
So I do always, every time I hear like, oh, they found DNA. And then it's like, oh, did they match it to someone? Oh, that's it. They're going away. Like that's my mindset. But then you got to insert that jury
Yeah.
in there, unless they plead guilty. But you got to insert the jury, and humans can be fickle. So I think this, I mean, just all of it is interesting, and I think we are going to see more and more cases that are precedent setting cases that are around DNA and the chain of custody and the how was it stored, how was it tested, was it all those things.
And I think season one, we've talked a couple times about following one all the way through, and I think this is a great one because it's got really everything. It's the cold case that went cold for so long that we're looking at. It's going to solve it somehow or another. We're going to get some closure here. We're about to go to trial. I think this is a really good one that we follow throughout season one. Like this will be the one that we kind of lace through. I think through all of our other topics and cases, this one we can keep watching because there's some pretty incredible things happening here. Because now here's the DNA piece. It's more recent, more complicated. Court reportings describing how there's a dispute over blood sample reportedly taken from the scene, specifically from the bathroom door area. So the question is, where is that evidence now? Like where did that evidence go? And I have heard that there's a piece of evidence missing, and it's there was a blood sample in the bathroom on the wall or something, and that piece of DNA has disappeared. That one. It's a different piece of DNA, but that piece of DNA is missing.
This is raised in filings and pretrial litigation. Reportings describe the state itself didn't know whether the sample was collected and lost or not collected despite earlier reports, and the judge sought clarity.
Yeah. Defense filings also report that they're reportedly pushed for a release and testing of blood related materials. So that matters because blood evidence can potentially point to someone present, injured, or in contact with the scene.
And this will be a great case to really see what the outcome is with, you know, even if DNA evidence is strong, how much, you know, evidence handling and how many of those questions can affect the trial, can affect that jury.
Yeah, because juries care about science. They want that smoking gun, but they also care about how that science is being handled. People do not need, especially in today's climate, another reason to have a Karen Reed type trial where are they being framed? Did someone plant this? Did someone purposefully lose it? Did they not do chain of evidence like they were supposed to? So I guess that brings us to now. Like, or well, we're starting to get some who's.
Movement. Yeah, so in 2021, Miguel Enrique Seguero Olivares was arrested and charged in connection with Faith Hedgepeth's death.
So reminder, accused and charged is not convicted. He is also under the presumption of innocence, as we talked about in the last episode, there is a courtroom process that decides what holds up under oath, cross examination, and expert testimony.
Does DNA plus a palm print feel like a lock to you, or do you still need to hear it explained in trial language to believe it? And not just trial language, in like easy to understand non-scientific-y. Not that that's a word, but
I love the
in
words we make up here with our coworkers. They're
non
great.
non-scientific language that everybody can understand. I know I've read cases and I'm just like, what did I just read?
Yeah, it's okay, 5 years ago, it would have been a lot to me. Now, I mean, I have had my mind flipped in trial so many times that I've been, you think you know exactly what's going on. Um, I can think of 3 cases right off the top that I was like, I had my mind made up going into this court filing, and then you watch the filings and what they're keeping out and what they're letting, and even knowing all of that start to end, it's still like, oh, it's not always that clean. So yeah, DNA makes me feel better. The palm print, it's even more reassurance. Like I said, if DNA brought it to 50, we have a flip of a coin that we're actually going to get a decision. DNA and a palm print that matches to the same person, I'm feeling we've got some heavier than half chances, right, of getting a conviction and we have the right person. That doesn't mean I think there's 0% chance that there's not more to the story.
Right. And after confirming the match, he's hit with 4 first degree charges: first degree murder, first degree rape, first degree sexual offense, and first degree burglary.
Ooh, that can shape what a jury hears because you're now hearing about entry intent, full narrative of what prosecutors claim happened. So just the charges alone are like, you broke in, you got what you wanted out of this young 19-year-old girl, and then you ended her life. I mean, the charges tell a story itself, you know?
They do.
And you were right about that trial date, weren't you?
And and the trials is this year, September 28th, 2026. So we'll
I
have to
think
let us know we're on jury duty.
Yeah, I mean, and not only that, we have a lot of time to prepare. We have time to decide and talk about. I would like. I do think you and I should talk offline about, do we want to have a staple case we talk about each year that we follow the whole time, and I think this raises a really good time to say we still do all of our other ones, but this is the one that when we hear things about it, we talk about. Um, with this, I really feel that pretrial motions, do we talk a little bit about what gets to stay? I mean, do we wait till actual trial? There's just a lot of things we could do we present as co-worker juries? Are we the cubicle unit for this? I mean, what do we hear? What do we think? And we are so similar and different that I think we are going to bring some really good perspective to that. So that's my offline thought. But but officially, like, I'm very ready for us to listen to this together, to kind of see this one through. This is the first case since we've had the podcast that will play out in front of us.
Yeah. And do you feel like with all the charges, I don't know, do you feel like with juries, like the more charges there are, is
Yeah.
it harder to get to a resolution? Because now you're considering 4 different charges. And when you go to deliberate, you got to go through each one separately.
hmm I think it does cause some confusion. I mean, because think about, you know, Walsh. They had to just stick with, I didn't kill her. I just dismembered her. You know,
And they weren't allowed to hear that he had pled guilty to that.
right, right. So but they know what they're charging him with, and he's saying, I just found her that way and I disposed. I didn't do this other. That's hard to separate those charges. It's really hard to splice through. Did you do this? Did you do this, but not this? Did you do this in tandem with this? Yeah, I think it's distracting. I definitely would say it's more distracting than clear, but it does tell a clear story But it's distracting because it's like, well, yeah, he was obviously in there, but I don't think he ended her life. That could happen. I could see the trial going that way, where the lawyer's like, "Look, we'll admit he was in there. His he gave her the bottle of wine, but he never came in the house." And they met up that night. She met him. I could see that. I could see, that he came over. She came over to his house. They had wine. She took the wine home because they didn't finish it, and they had hooked up while she was at his house. He was never in her house. That explains the contact. Doesn't put him in the house. It doesn't put him harming her. It doesn't put him ending her life. So that means he didn't break in her, and but he did sleep with her, and he did have that wine bottle. So, I could see that being a distraction because they could cut it up, but I also think it clarifies the story, tells the story itself.
Yeah. It lays out the story with
Yeah.
those charges. This case, like we've talked about, you know, it, it has a clear line. This is a long line. Faith was murdered in 2012, and through DNA advancements, they were able to name a suspect in 2021, and here we are 5 years later going to trial.
And the blood sample dispute and the other pretrial claims are exactly that, disputes and claims raised during litigation, not proven facts.
I think this is just a reminder that DNA can sit in the system for a long, long time with no name attached and just waiting for the right advancements. And then it gets claimed, it gets a name.
Coming back for you. And now it's also a reminder that even when science moves a case forward, the courtroom is where the science really gets the stress test. That's where we see what it's made of.
If this goes to trial in 2026, because we've seen stranger things happen where, the person pleads guilty at the last minute or, things happen. Is there a piece that you feel matters the most? The science, the story, the investigation, or the handling?
I think the story, that's where closure really comes from. And as humans, I think we need a story. I think people need a story. Any case I've seen that doesn't go to trial and we just get, okay, fine, I plead or whatever, and they just want to not go to trial because they think their chances are better with a plea, it's always why that's still there. Why? Why did this happen? Why would this happen? And it's like the story is what feels missing every time. So in my mind, if it goes to trial, it's going to matter. The story is going to matter. I think, and I feel if it goes to trial, we're going to hear a lot more than what story is being told right now. There is a lot of speculation and allegedlys and things that we're not touching because we're going to watch this one through. We'll get to those. If it goes to trial, we're definitely getting to those. And even if there's a plea, we'll get to those. So it's better we don't put that in this part of it, but I think that's what we need to hear. I think we need to hear the story. What about you? You feel that way too?
Yeah, I think both. I think this might be one of those cases that it's referred back to for the science.
Yeah.
The handling, the, chain of custody, all those things are going to come into play in this case, and I think that we will be talking about this again.
Yeah. How did they handle it? Where's that one piece that's could be missing? There's a lot here.
There's a there's a lot to this one, and I'm glad we covered it, but whew, this one was
This one's
there's a
big.
lot here.
Yeah,
This one's
there's a
big.
lot here. It's big. And that's why I think this is one we keep following, just because it's a big story to tell and it's a harder story to tell later. Of course, we can sum it up, but to give it its real due diligence, I think it is a story you tell one piece at a time. So I think we laid a good foundation for it today.
Yeah.
Well, let's wrap up today and we'll be having this talk again for sure.
Yeah, this one will come back. But I think this laid a good foundation. And it'll be interesting to follow this one.
Yeah.
So until next week.
Yeah. See you next Wednesday.
Bye, coworkers.
Later.